Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Slide into English, where we learn the English language through slideshows, conversation, and comprehensible input. First and foremost, let me say Happy New Year and welcome to all my new students who have subscribed to this channel. Seriously, I did not expect this many of you to enjoy my content and to subscribe, so I am so appreciative that you have come along to join me and your other students in learning more about the English language. For our first video for this year, we are going to return to our very popular topic of contractions. And we have actually covered the words haven't and hasn't before, but I'm giving you some more examples and I am also combining it with another word, hadn't. This is a little confusing and you may not be sure when you're supposed to use the word haven't, hasn't, or hadn't. So I hope that's what we are going to cover and understand today. If you like this video, make sure to give a thumbs up and leave a comment. And if you aren't already, please make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much. Let's go. First, we're going to look at the contraction hasn't. Hasn't. This is a combination of the two words has and not. Hasn't is an example of the present perfect tense. This tense is for actions which began in the past but continue into the present. Has or has not cannot function by itself. It needs to have an additional past participle, which we will see in the upcoming sentences. Generally, I don't like to talk about grammar that much, but we're just putting a little bit so you can define the difference between haven't, hasn't, and hadn't. Okay? Furthermore, we can only use the contraction hasn't for he, she, and it. So he has not, she has not, it has not. He hasn't, she hasn't, and it hasn't. Let's continue and see some more examples. He has not arrived yet. He hasn't arrived yet. She has not arrived yet. She hasn't arrived yet. It, maybe the train, maybe a bus, it hasn't arrived yet. It is the short of it has not arrived yet. A few more sentences just to see and so you can hear how we pronounce this word. My boss has not sent the letter yet. My boss hasn't sent the letter yet. Your mum has not called for a few days. Your mum hasn't called for a few days. The rain has not stopped. The rain hasn't stopped. Okay, next slide. Now we are going to look at the word haven't, which is a contraction of the words have and not. It's another example of the present perfect tense. And now we see the difference here. We used hasn't for our he, she, and it pronouns. If we need to speak about I, you, we, or they, we use the word haven't. Again, we need have or have not in this case, plus a past participle. You can't just say, I haven't t-shirt, for example. You need to say, I haven't bought, worn, colored a t-shirt. Okay? Here are our 4 examples. I have not. I haven't. You have not. You haven't. We have not. We haven't. They have not. They haven't. Let's see some sentences in action. Have not. Haven't. I have not finished my homework. I haven't finished my homework. You have not finished your homework. You haven't finished your homework. We have not finished our homework. We haven't finished our homework. They have not finished their homework. They haven't finished their homework. Now, as you can see, this is something you would say in the present tense. I haven't finished my homework. At this point in time, it's not done. But maybe he was supposed to start, maybe I was supposed to start my homework in a past time. But now we're talking in the present. That's why haven't and hasn't is our present tense perfect. And we're going to speak about another example very soon. Let's get some more examples of haven't. I have not read all the books. I haven't read all the books. You have not done anything. You haven't done anything. We have not discussed our plans. We haven't discussed our plans. They haven't said what they want, which is the contraction of they have not said what they want. Next slide. Finally, here is the example that's a little different. Had not, hadn't, hadn't. This is an example of the past perfect tense. This tense refers to events that have already happened earlier in the past. We still need had or had not, as well as a past participle. Let's see what we mean by events that have already happened, but in the past. I had not eaten that day. I hadn't eaten that day. You had not eaten that day. You hadn't eaten that day. She had not eaten that day. She hadn't eaten that day. He had not eaten that day. He hadn't eaten that day. We had not eaten that day. We hadn't eaten that day. They had not eaten that day. They hadn't eaten that day. Now there's a few notes. Let's look at this. This person in the example had not yet eaten when the event was taking place in the past. This is a story about a particular day in the past, and at the point of the story, the person has not eaten yet. So that's why we have our past perfect tense. You can also see that had not is used for all of our pronouns, whereas have not and has not was split between some. Lastly, you can also see that we use the word I hadn't eaten. Eaten is our past participle. We don't say I hadn't ate that day because ate is the past tense. But because eat, ate, eaten is a bit of a unique verb, that's why we have this word eaten as our past participle. So hopefully that's not too confusing. Let's see another set of examples. I had not completed all my chores that day. I hadn't completed all my chores that day. He had not seen what we saw. He hadn't seen what we saw. She had not been there before. She hadn't been there before. They had not tasted the cafeteria lunch. They hadn't tasted the cafeteria lunch. We had not been paying attention. We hadn't been paying attention. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our session on the words haven't, hasn't, and the new one, hadn't. It can be a little difficult to know when to use which example. And furthermore, because these words have a lot of consonants together, it can also be a bit confusing or hard to pronounce as well. So I hope that with this video, you have got lots of opportunities to hear our specific words, haven't, hasn't, and hadn't. You can practice them, and you can listen to this video as many times as you need. If you like this style of video, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and like, so I know to keep making videos for you. I am so appreciative of those of you who have stayed to the end of the video and paid attention all the way to the end of the class. Good for you. Now, I hope to see you in our next lesson very soon. Okay, thank you so much. Bye for now.